talk and text line at 1-414-799-1973.
If I'm in this crummy situation, let's make content out of it.
The Matt Schneidman Show is brought to you by Potawatomi Sportsbook. Bet above the rest.
Never go corporate. Always go local.
Now with Doug Russell.
Doug, that's why you need to focus and you do everything that we say.
Here's Matt Schneidman on the game.
I think me and Matt have a much better feel for each other.
It's not Doug Russell today, here with me on the game, Monday, October 7th edition of the Matt Schneidman Show. It's Hunter Baumgardt. Always a pleasure to have him in the saddle. It's a big night tonight. Yankees play game 2 of the ALDS against the Royals in about 38 minutes. So you'll get to see me watch that game for the final 10 minutes of this show, which should be interesting. I asked Hunter to take over the final 10 minutes of the show. He refused. He said it would be better content if people watch me agonize through the first inning.
I think so. It's like a watch party just to watch you react to an inning of baseball.
But people don't listen to the show for that. They listen to the show for Packers stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to dissect every aspect of yesterday's game. Packers 24, Rams 19. And we're going to start with what we do every week. Our final judgment presented by Habush, and Rotier. We give, I don't know if you've been on when we've done this, Hunter.
I don't think so.
An overarching takeaway, overarching big picture judgment from the game. Obviously, judgment in line with the law firm that sponsors this segment. So shout out Habush, and Rotier. My overarching takeaway, not necessarily from the game, but from the last 2 days, is Tucker Kraft is a crazy person. And that's a good thing. I mean that in the most endearing way possible. Tucker Kraft, and I'll have a story on Kraft with more details tomorrow morning on The Athletic, has announced himself as not only the Packers TE1, their primary tight end, but he's starting to make a name for himself around the league. We'll get to Xavier McKinney. We'll get to what Jordan Love did. We'll get to every other aspect of the game yesterday. Tucker Kraft, 4 catches, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. And let me throw a couple stats at you. As of right now, before Travis Kelce plays tonight, Tucker Kraft ranks 6th in the NFL in receiving yards with 218. He ranks tied for first with Brock Bowers, I believe, in touchdown catches with 3 after his 2 yesterday. He ranks first in yards after catch per reception with 11.8. That's according to Next Gen Stats. He ranks first in yards after, this is a complicated stat, stay with me here, yards after contact over expectation. So basically, when he catches the ball and it looks like he's going to get tackled, but he earns more yards than Next Gen Stats predicts him to. Ranks first in that category too. Eric Stokes told me and Rob Domofsky yesterday that he thinks Tucker Kraft can be the best tight end in the league. And the reason my final judgment is that he's a little crazy is not only does he run after the catch like he's crazy, but Tucker Kraft went on AJ Dillon's podcast, Tune In to Dillon. Tune in, not TUNE space IN, TOONEN, which is the maiden name of Dillon's wife. AJ does the podcast with Will Toonan, who's his wife's brother, so his brother-in-law. Tucker Kraft episode dropped today on that podcast. And Tucker Kraft said he sometimes tells opponents he's going to burn their childhood homes down when they trash talk him. So the guy's a little crazy.
Wow.
I tweeted that out today, and people overwhelmingly approved of that. You need a little crazy in your tight end. Not only is he good on the field, but he has a little crazy in him that helps him be a better blocker, maybe, that helps him run after the catch and break tackles like he did yesterday on that 66-yard touchdown catch where he got 50 yards after the catch, stiff-armed a DB, broke a tackle of another. Kraft said after the game, his mentality is just he's never going to let a DB tackle him. And it's interesting because last week against the Vikings, if you remember, he lost the fumble while trying to get yards after the catch. And in the locker room at Lambeau Field after that game, he said, "That's not like me. I'm going to run angrier now." And someone asked him, "You're going to run angrier? How do you do that?" And Kraft said, "I'll show you." And yesterday he showed us. So Tucker Kraft gets my final judgment for this week.
Okay. My first final judgment on the Matt Schneidman Show. All right. So
this is a big moment, Hunter. A big moment for you. This could really elevate your career.
It really could. It really could. I am going to say that my judgment is that Xavier McKinney could be the most impactful free agent signing for the Green Bay Packers since Charles Woodson on either side of the ball. And if you look back, you say, okay, Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith were significant that year. Adrian Amos had a nice little run with Green Bay, but they weren't what Xavier McKinney's doing. And you could argue Zadarius Smith, when he first came, was those years. I think you were here for those first couple, right? You were in Green Bay for that.
Yeah, I was here for Zadarius's first 2 really good years.
Yeah.
Did he spend 3 years with the Packers?
Yes, but or maybe 4. Is it 3?
I was here from the start. Not when they first signed him. I got here July 2019, but yeah.
For a guy who has 5 interceptions already and a team that had 7 in the season as a team last year, that is just such a significant jump up. And the way he's not only impacting, I think it was 9 to Noon talking about this today, how he's not just impacting by getting the football and interceptions, but he's impacting, even if he didn't have any interceptions, he would be one of the top safeties right now with what he's just simply doing on the field. And so I think this could be one of those free agency signings you look back on and say that he could change the tone of the defense. Charles Woodson, was a part of changing the tone of that defense that won a Super Bowl. And so maybe that's the same here with Xavier McKinney, because boy, oh boy, has he been impressive.
It's fitting that we start with those 2 guys because in the post-game video tweeted out by the Packers of Matt LaFleur's, post-game celebratory speech where he gives out his game balls. He gave out 2 game balls yesterday, one to Xavier McKinney, one to Tucker Kraft.
There you go.
Xavier McKinney is the first player in league history since the 1970 NFL-AFL merger with an interception in each of the first 5 games he's played with a new team. And I believe he had one in the final game with the Giants last year.
Yes, he did.
So that's 6 in a row. This guy's unbelievable. And the thing is, and I'll have more on this on the Matt LaFleur podcast tomorrow, which airs throughout the day on this station. And then the full 25-minute interview from my sit-down with the Packers head coach, which occurred about 2 hours ago, less than that, hour and a half ago, will air on my show tomorrow night at 6. But we get into a little bit more of everything that Xavier McKinney does that leads up to these moments, because he's making it look easy. Like, he's making covering all that ground against the Eagles look easy. He's making following Aaron Jones on that corner route look easy. I asked Xavier McKinney yesterday, did you ever play center field in baseball? And he was like, he kind of chuckled. He was like, no, I didn't, but I've always had good instincts. And that's what you have to have as a safety. It takes a good safety to a great safety. So he is a great safety right now. Is he going to win Defensive Player of the Year? I don't know. It's worth a thought right now. Edge rusher is always going to win it since they have the gaudy numbers. But he has 5 interceptions in 5 games. That's 2 more than anyone else in the NFL. The last safety to win Defensive Player of the Year was Troy Polamalu in 2010. So if Xavier McKinney stays on this pace, this path, he's going to thrust his name into those conversations. It's tough because safeties don't have like the consistent impact that edge rushers do. So it's hard to make a name for yourself like that. But 1 interception per week, you're going to make a name for yourself. And it's equally as important. Obviously, everything he does on the field is important. But to have Javon Bullard and Evan Williams playing at the level they are, that's a big credit to Xavier McKinney, too. Because, and I think people forget, Xavier McKinney's 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He plays like he's like a wily old vet, like a 29-year-old maybe. He's 25 years old in his 5th year in the league. He came into the league young. Same draft class as Jordan Love. He was a 2020 second-round pick of the Giants. And the way he has not only played himself, but taken Bullard and Evan Williams under his wing so they can get out there. And obviously, it's a credit to those guys, too. But that they can get out there and play significant snaps against a quarterback like Matthew Stafford and hold their own. The Packers have a lot of depth and a lot of good pieces in that secondary. I think they're set up well, especially when Jair Alexander comes back, which I think will be this Sunday. He told Rob Domofsky in locker room yesterday it's looking like this Sunday, and they could use him against Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you think about what they've done without him, and that could just be elevated, especially against the pass, and I know people were complaining about how they defended the run possibly yesterday, and we can get into that as the show goes on. But I think the pass defense they've been able to survive without him, and so it can only hopefully go up from there. We do have a couple of callers if we want to get to those right off the bat here, Matt.
Let's get to some callers. Let's hit the phone lines.
All right, let's go out to the NicoletLaw.com talk and text line. It is Thomas joining us from La Crosse. Thomas, welcome to the program.
Hello, Hunter. Yes, Hunter used to work at WKTY Sports here in La Crosse, Matt. So I got to give a shout out to him, and I'm really, really proud of him to see his growth and rise in this ever-evolving sports industry. So shout out to you, Hunter.
Thank you.
This is Matt Schneidman show, not the Hunter Baumgardt show. Let's get a move on. No, I'm kidding. Hunter's the best.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.
Yes. I know he would blush at that, but on to my game notes. So Matt, Jordan Love, and I'm going to kind of reiterate some of the stuff that I told Grant Bills on his show on WKTY. I'm going to give him a grade of a B+. I saw some good, I saw some bad, but there's definitely room for growth and improvement. I love Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed really, kind of stepped up, really made his presence known. That's the phrase I'm looking for. That big catch in the first quarter, I absolutely flipped out. Unfortunately, I can't do a front or back flip. Maybe I'll learn one day, but I totally would have if I could have there, because that catch, first quarter, 3 defenders covering, that's incredible. And Jordan Love literally put that ball in perfect place. I do have some concerns though. 1, too many Dane penalties, and I think Hunter, you and Matt could both agree we had too many Dane penalties. Just overall, not only on our side too, but also on the Rams. And then number 2,
you want to know what's crazy? Can I interject for 1 second, then let you continue?
Absolutely, Matt. 100%.
So
this is the Matt Schneidman show. Absolutely.
I think they had 6 penalties yesterday. I'm going on NFLpenalties.com. It says my connection is not private and I can't reach it. What the heck? Anyway, I checked earlier. I just wanted to double check. The Packers entering the game, I believe we're tied for 3rd in the league with 34 penalties against through the first 4 games. Right now they're 6th with 40.
Okay.
So considering the other couple games, they actually did really well. Still 6 penalties, got to clean it up. Go ahead, continue.
True. And yeah, our run defense and at times our pass defense, our defense in general just definitely does need to improve. There were some callers on Grant's show that mentioned it too, and Bill Michaels, the good old Bill Michaels, mentioned it on his show here in La Crosse earlier this morning too. The defense needs to improve. So
they let up less than 20 points though.
That's a good point. But I'm looking to see improvement for sure, especially against Arizona. Oh boy, I don't want any repeated disasters. I remember, when was it? There. I think it was 2017 or 18. These are Rodgers times when we lost in heartbreak to the Cardinals. I do not want to see that.
McCarthy was fired after that game, right?
I think he was, yeah. Then you got at home against the Texans. Then we go to beautiful, sunny, but now hurricane town in Jacksonville. So we'll have to see what happens end of October for that game if it gets moved because of the hurricane. But that's for a later date. And then at home against the Lions first week of November. So we got 4 really good teams, minus Jacksonville, but I'm not really ruled really numb out yet. They've shown me some good, some bad as well, kind of just like with Jordan Love. But Arizona, Houston, Detroit, those are the 3 teams I'm really looking for as we head into that Week 10 bye. Can the defense really show itself out? Can the defense really take a stand and be the leaders to lead this team to victory? That's what I'm looking for, Matt, over these next 3-4 weeks. I appreciate you taking the call. That's really all I got from my game notes side. Keep up the great work. Hunter, you are killing it, my guy. Matt, you as well. Love the show as always. Peace out from La Crosse.
There you go.
Thanks Thomas. Appreciate it. He just emptied those game notes.
Wow.
I love it.
He was probably taking those as the game was going on, and he was ready to rock and roll.
I love it. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you for listening. Here's the thing on the defense. The run defense still a little shaky. And what I noticed yesterday is the Packers are getting into the backfield, but they're almost and I need to watch back the game closer. I haven't been able to yet because I was traveling all day today. The Wi-Fi situation on the plane was ridiculous, and I had to go right to Lambeau. But it seemed like they were almost overshooting their gaps. Like they would get into the backfield, and the running back would already be past them. And Kenny Clark would get in the backfield. The running back would go the other gap as my, camera falls down again. I think I need a new sticky thing to stick this to the mount. Anyway, run defense obviously still needs to be better. That's just always going to be an issue in Green Bay, regardless of the personnel, regardless of who's here. I think the one time the pass defense was shakiest was on that second to last drive, but they were playing too high, keeping everything in front. Matt LaFleur said today that you're up 2 scores late in the fourth quarter. You don't want the Rams to get it all back in one. So I was watching that and going, this looks an awful lot like a Joe Barry defense where you're just giving the other team 10 yards per play. They're going to chip away. But then on that final drive, the Packers got more aggressive. Carl Brooks had the big sack, and Evan Williams made the big play. That is kind of more like what the Packers defense needs to be, I think. But I get why they played, kind of that too high conservative defense on the second to last drive, up 11 points late in the fourth quarter. It's a smart thing to do. Getting Jair Alexander back will help. Getting kind of more of a form of a pass rush. LaFleur talks about Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark specifically on my show tomorrow. But listen, at the end of the day, they let up less than 20 points. At the end of the day, they've held the Colts to 10, the Titans to, 14, 13.
Mm-hmm.
They just held the Rams to 19.
They
held the
football.
Vikings to 3 in the second half last week. That's like 3.5 out of 5 games they've had phenomenal defense. Granted, it's against the opponents you should.
Mm-hmm.
Struggled against the Eagles in week 1, and that was in part due to the field surface and just slipping all over the place. It's impossible almost to play defense on that surface. And then against the Vikings, the first half was terrible without, arguably your best defensive player in Jair Alexander. So all in all, I would say a pretty good start for Jeff Hafley's unit.
I think so too. And the way they've played, it's been different. It's been forcing turnovers. I mean, coming into yesterday, I think they were first in takeaways.
I think the Vikings might have been.
Okay. Or up
but
there.
The bottom line is they
Yeah.
have they have 14 takeaways.
Yeah.
They have 9 interceptions. They had 7 all last season.
Right.
And if you let up yardage but get the key takeaway, that's fine. Is that sustainable? Maybe not. But I think the Packers have enough playmakers that their defense is fine right now. If Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark and those guys can get going up front a little bit more and start producing a little bit more in terms of the play-ending plays like the sacks and the TFLs, this defense can be a top 10 unit, I think.
I think so. I think so too. We got one more caller here before the break. We got
all right.
Leland and Elkhorn giving us a call. Leland, welcome to the show.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I wanted to talk 2 things. One, I guess they're both. Well, one's about defense, one's about the offense. So first off, main thing I'm worried about for Sunday is being able to contain Kyler Murray, and it just gives me nightmares of past games. Like I'm thinking way back when with like Kaepernick and guys like that just ran all over us. But I thought we did a good job in containing Jalen Hurts the first game of the year, but it's going to be a bigger challenge because obviously Kyler Murray is more shifty than Jalen Hurts is. But then again, he's got the legs of a second grader. But that's the main thing I'm worried about on the defense. But I also want to talk about Xavier McKinney for a second. I also wanted to mention, along with the interceptions, he also had that fumble recovery on Sunday. And I thought that was crazy too. And it begs the question, when are we going to start calling him Nick Collins level and then maybe even Charles Woodson level? Like, what does he have to do to get there? Because I totally think he can get there.
Well, Hunter began the show by saying Xavier McKinney could be a Charles Woodson type signing. And I think, I wrote this in my story off the game yesterday. Xavier, I wasn't here for Nick Collins, but just talking to some people who have been reporters, I'm talking about, Xavier McKinney's the best safety here since Nick Collins. It's 5 games, but he looks like he's on track to be that. Look, Xavier McKinney, Leland, you mentioned the fumble recovery. I thought an even better play than that was the PBU he had on the third down on the opening drive. When how many times do you see that called as not targeting, but unnecessary roughness? It just perfect execution and technique on the hit to come over the top on Tutu Atwell, jack him up, break up that pass, and force a punt. He's doing it in all facets. And on the offensive or on the other side of the ball, no, both your points were about defense. You threw me off because you said one defense, one offense, but both were about defense.
I got one more.
No, hold on. Let me answer your first point. So it's funny you mentioned about Kyler Murray because we just talk about the pass rush. It could be a similar pass rush plan as the first 2 weeks where it's called a mush rush, where you basically rush to contain and just try and mush the pocket instead of doing all this crazy stuff, creating holes for the quarterback to run out of. That's what they did against Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson. The pass rushers have to almost sacrifice their own personal numbers to prevent these quarterbacks from escaping and making plays with their legs. I could see a similar plan being utilized against Kyler Murray. I talked to Matt LaFleur about Kyler Murray on our podcast that's going to be on my show tomorrow. And this was not an insult to Kyler Murray, but you said he has the legs of a second grader. That's probably a little mean. Matt LaFleur compared him to a wolf, is what he called him. And I think he means that with all due respect, of course, just in the way he can extend plays, scramble around. It really tests a defense to stick to your keys when a guy extends a play like that. All right. One more point you had from the offense, then we got to get to break.
Yeah, just that I'm not like a lot of people are hating on the Packers right now because Jordan Love's not doing so hot and their offense isn't producing as much as what people had thought we were going to do. But you got to look at last year, and it's still early. Like, we went on that crazy run at the end of the season. I think we're there. I think either next week or it's going to be the Texans game. We're really going to see our offense light up. And we also got Jordan Love. He just had his injury. I wouldn't say he's still getting the rust off, but still, he missed a lot of snaps, whether it was in game or in practice. And once this doubs stuff gets taken care of, I think we're going to be fine. But we've seen, like, Josh Jacobs the first couple of games of the season, he wasn't doing so well, but he's really finding his groove, and the wide receivers are finding their groove. As long as we stop the drops and keep playing complimentary football, I think we're going to do really, really good towards the end of the season here.
That's a good point. I'm going to touch on Jordan Love after the break. Appreciate the call, Leland. Some great points there. After the break, let's touch on Jordan Love.
Yes.
A lot of people have thoughts on his play. One decision in particular that he made yesterday.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on Jordan Love, how we should maybe view his start to the season, his first 3 games. That'll be coming right up after the break, so stick with us right here on the Matt Schneidman Show on the Game.
These days, I'm afraid she's not even sure if the neighbors will run it.
Hey, thank you to all the Packer fans who made the trip out here to SoFi. We got a dub for you guys. Go Pack, go.
That's the voice of Jordan Love, the Packers quarterback, who, according to some people, should be throwing 80,000 touchdowns and no interceptions through the first couple games. No, I kid. It's okay to be critical, as people should be. He hasn't been great, but I think it's important to, discuss a couple things when discussing the performance of the Packers franchise quarterback. Going into this season, we cautioned everybody. We said he might not consistently play at the level he did the second half of last season. That's MVP level football that Jordan Love played the second half of last season. It's okay if he's a level below that. Game 1 of the season, kind of an outlier. Then the last 2 games, he's coming back from a sprained MCL that he came back from after only missing 2 games. That's not an excuse. He's still got to be better. But by no means is it time to panic. I know the guys on 9 to Noon, and we talked about it on the Football Feast last week, were asking me, is it time to panic about Jordan Love's interceptions? No. And it's still not, even after the wild one he threw on Sunday, where the Packers messed up their protection. Actually, when Matt LaFleur is on my show tomorrow, he talks about how the Packers messed up in protection, and it wasn't entirely Jordan Love's fault on that play. That's not to absolve him of blame. Love still should have made a better play. And LaFleur acknowledges that too, I'm pretty sure. Love himself said he shouldn't have put as much air on that ball as he did. He was trying to avoid a safety, so you get why those instincts kicked in. But what stood out is how Love responded, and that's kind of been the theme of his career. After adversity, he responds really well. I think I saw the stat somewhere. He was like 9 for 9 after that. Just was, granted, it's not all tight window throws, but the way he responds to a play like that, he doesn't let it happen again. Obviously, he threw 3 interceptions against the Vikings, so he did let some interceptions happen again. But he started off slow and then led them back into the game. And they only lost by 2. This week, he throws that interception, Packers trail, and then Love helped them back into the game. Obviously, the 2 takeaways by the defense helped too. I still think it's far too early to be concerned about Jordan Love. Every game there's going to be, he's not living up to his price tag. But guess what? That's the nature of the beast. That's the microscope you put yourself under when you're paid $55 million a year. And that's fine. I have no problem with people reacting that way. I just want to try and provide some context to, he's not playing terribly. He's not playing at the level he did last year. He is, like some people have suggested, I'm not saying this is true, but I think it's just funny how people are like, he's a blend between Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. He's not too reckless, but he's not too conservative. And I think that's kind of been the case this year. He clearly has that playmaking ability. And you need that in a playmaking quarterback. You don't want to see that go away. And sooner or later, that aggressiveness, we think, based on what we saw last year, will consistently result in these explosive plays instead of explosive plays for the defense. So I don't think it's time to worry at all yet for Jordan Love.
Yeah, I don't either. I think we've seen more Favre moments in him than Rodgers this season. And I thought we saw more Rodgers moments than Favre moments last season. So I saw someone put up like a graphic of 2023 Love, and it was a picture of Rodgers, and then 2024 Jordan Love, and it was a picture of Favre. And look, like he's always going to be compared to those two because of what he is coming after. Obviously, those 2 quarterbacks. But I think it's still too early to anoint him as better, worse, the same, whatever it happens to be, than either of those 2. But that kind of that dive and that pick 6, I think a lot of Packers fans went, oh, that's something Brett Favre would have done. And look, I don't think Love's going to do it a lot in his career, and I think he learned from it. And like you said, he had a really good second half, and kind of after that turned it on. And so that's what excites you about it. And you think too, like, okay, the first game in Brazil, which was different for everybody, and like you said, the playing surface was different. Then he gets hurt, so then he's out a couple of games. Clearly wasn't 100%, or maybe even close in that Vikings game. And then yesterday, you'd see him, moving around a little bit more. He had that scramble, like he's looking more like Jordan Love. But until we get to like November, December, I don't want to make any sweeping things about this season or the way he's playing, because the team's 3-2. They've got his first win of the season yesterday, and I'm still not concerned. I know he's thrown more interceptions at a higher rate so far this season in the games he's played, but I'm not concerned yet.
Think about it this way. What did we say when Jordan Love went down? And I'm talking, think about big picture of the season. When Jordan Love went down and the Packers were 0-1, we forecasted that he would miss 3 games based on reports. We said if Malik Willis can win one of those, that's fine. So they would be 1-3. And then you would hope that Jordan Love comes back, beats the Rams 2-3. Right now they're 3-2. So they're a game ahead of pace. Would you have liked him to play better against the Vikings? Of course. The Packers are 3-2. It's too early to look at playoff picture. They're in a really tough division, the only division with every team above 500. They have a 2-3 team coming to town next Sunday, albeit one who just beat the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara. So the Arizona Cardinals are nothing to be, glossed over. But right now, considering they didn't have their starting quarterback for 2 games, they just had to suspend Romeo Doubs, which we'll get to next. They've had a litany of injuries to Christian Watson, Jordan Morgan, their first-round rookie, Jair Alexander, Devontae Wyatt. Like, the injuries they've already gone through have been ridiculous, and they're still 3-2.
Yeah.
So I think obviously we're going to, go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and it's fine to be critical. The 2 games they've lost, they lost by 5 points and they lost by 2 points. The 2 really good teams. Now, the Eagles might not be really good. The Vikings are really good. And in those games, missed kicks hurt them. So I think where the Packers are right now is a solid spot. But on the Romeo Doubs suspension aspect, so Bill Huber was the first to report that Romeo skipped 2 practices last week because he was unhappy with his role in the passing game. Matt LaFleur would not delve into the reasons why or what they talked about in their meeting today, other than saying he's looking forward to welcoming Doubs back on Wednesday. So it looks like he'll be back at practice on Wednesday. I'll be interested to see if he talks on Wednesday. I will say, this just shows that as much as you think you know a guy based on what he does in interviews and however you talk to him off the record in the locker room or the personality he gives off, you never really know a guy. And that's what I always try to remind myself. We're in these guys' world, but we're also not. We don't know them through a hole in the wall at the end of the day. Romeo Doubs would probably be at the very bottom of my list in terms of a guy who would skip practice because he's happy with his role, especially because he's talked in the past about how important it is to be unselfish in that receiver room. That's been a common theme. Jason Vrabel, the Packers passing game coordinator, talked about how unselfish these guys are. We've talked about how 4 guys can be the number 1 any given day and how that unselfishness needed to make the offense run is present in the wide receiver room. I'd be interested to hear what Romeo Doubs says. I wonder if there's anything else going on under the surface that kind of maybe made him do this, because it's hard to believe he's that unhappy with his role in the passing game that he went to practice on Wednesday and then didn't go on Thursday or Friday. Not only that, through 4 games, he had 20 targets. That's 2 behind the team lead. Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks had 22 each. So I don't know if there's something else going on here under the surface beyond what Bill correctly reported, I might add. But we'll see if Romeo Doubs speaks this week. I expect him to on hopefully Wednesday, so we can get that out of the way, get that story up. But I would say a very, very surprising, stunning turn of events in Green Bay. And maybe, just maybe, Packers can rectify this with Doubs, and Doubs will have to do his part too, like they did with Jair Alexander last year.
Yeah.
They obviously got to a much better situation. It'll be important for the Packers to do that with Doubs, who's a guy who's a really important piece of this team.
Yeah, from what I've, gathered, limited times I've been in the locker room, he's a very guy that keeps to himself, a guy that, is a very calm, it seems. He can be fiery on the field, as a lot of players can be. But yeah, he would have been near the bottom of my list as far as who I would have guessed this to happen to. But
who would be at the top of your list? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How to get us in trouble. Yeah. So I think it's could be really, like you said, really good for all sides, because it really seems, and it's not good for a team that necessarily have this happen a couple of years in a row with two of your significant contributors, Jair last year, now Romeo this year. But it seems that Jair has been different a little bit since that happened, and in a good way. And so maybe this can be the same with Romeo, and maybe it puts a chip on his shoulder, whatever it happens to be. And maybe it turns out better for all sides having gone through this.
And Matt LaFleur, as I said, didn't want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, the specifics of it. But I did ask him about it in our conversation for my show afterward, and basically said, how do you as a coach ensure a guy who's reportedly unhappy about his target share gets more targets? And LaFleur basically said, I'm paraphrasing here, you'll see his full answer on my show tomorrow, that it's his job to do what's best for the team. And it's his job to, not necessarily cater to individual player demands and do what's best to help the team win. And it's up to the players to buy into that. So we'll see how Romeo responds, how the Packers and Romeo can make amends or not make amends. If he comes back on Wednesday, which is seems like the plan, and can fit back in seamlessly, just like Jair Alexander did. Jair was suspended, came back for that Bears game in Week 18, then had a huge interception in the playoffs against the Cowboys. I bet if Romeo comes back, he'll catch a touchdown against the Cardinals.
I would think so.
Courtesy touchdown.
Yes, courtesy.
But it'll be a fascinating situation to watch because not only is it rare for a team to have to suspend a player, but to do it for the reason, reportedly why they did it, to the player that was at the center of this, that's what's surprising here. So I'll be interested to see how that develops over the coming days and coming weeks to see if they can get this thing smoothed out. All right. Yankees game is starting right now. It's perfect time to get to a break, which we normally get to a break around this time. On the other side, tie up some loose odds and ends from yesterday's game. Josh Jacobs got in the end zone for the first time. Braden Narvison didn't miss a kick. Run defense still shaky. How do you feel about the Packers at 3-2 through 5 games? Let us know on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line, 414-799-1973. Stick with us right here on the Matt Schneidman Show on the Game, as Carlos Rodon throws a first pitch strike.
Talk dirty to me. Talk dirty to me.
Snap to Stafford, looking under a blitz. Rainbows down the left side. It is intercepted. Intercepted by that man. X on the spot. McKinney coming back the other way. Across the 40 to the 45.
It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The guy just has a knack for the football, and he's got great ball skills. He's very instinctive and smart to allow him to anticipate, to make plays, and then he generally makes the play. He's been obviously a very key pickup for us in free agency.
Look at that Hunter Baumgardt audio wizardry coming back from break here on the Magic Schneidman Show. But before we talk about Xavier McKinney some more, because I'm assuming that's what our callers want to talk about, I got to tell you about Iron Jock. Let's talk Iron Jock hoodies and their new all-purpose joggers. Now through October 13th, when you purchase men's or women's hoodies and joggers, use promo code FALL30, it's FALL30, to receive 30% off every hoodie and jogger in your cart. And you'll also get a free Iron Jock travel towel. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com. As Carlos Rodon throws a 1-2-3 first inning, striking out the Kansas City Royals in order. Let's get to the phone lines.
Adam in Chicago, you are up on the Matt Schneidman Show. Welcome.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Hunter. I got two parts for you. The first is that I heard LaFleur saying in his press conference this morning, it was actually this afternoon, it felt like this morning, that Rashawn Gary has been struggling because he's getting chipped left and right, but that they spent all of the preseason and training camp chipping him every day in practice, and the D-line was getting all upset about that during during preseason. But it seems like whatever they're doing, I mean, you can't even tell Rashawn Gary is on the field. And I noticed all through preseason, I saw several tweets of yours that Rashawn Gary was still having a field day in preseason. So despite them chipping the heck out of him during the preseason, somehow he was able to get past it. Is he just, I mean, he looks like he's almost smaller this year. Did he lose some weight or something? Because he's not bull rushing guys like he used to be able to. Something seems up with him. And the second question I have for you is, we've seen now in a couple games, every time Cooper's on the field, he makes plays, and every time Quay Walker's on the field, he's either there and misses plays, or he's just completely lost on plays. How long is it until we have to flip that green dot to Cooper and get McDuffie, who's ranked, I think right now, one of the worst run stoppers of all of middle linebackers off the field here?
So a couple things. On Rashawn Gary first, yeah, he's got to be better. We talked about it a bunch last week, how, yeah, even if he's getting that extra attention, he's got to find a way to make plays. And it's on both him and the coaching staff. Jeff Hafley said he needs more out of Gary, and Gary needs more out of him, meaning Hafley. They got to find him more one-on-ones. And right now, it's tough to get past double teams and chips and thumps and all that stuff, but the best pass rushers do it. The ones who make money like Rashawn Gary does do it. So they got to find a way to do it. He's got to find a way to do it. On Quay Walker, name a play for me, and I don't say this to go at you, but I think one of the hardest things to do as fans and reporters is to adequately assign blame right after we watch a play without talking to the people within the play first. For example, the Eagles game. On Saquon Barkley's 11-yard touchdown run where nobody touched him, it looks like Quay Walker overshoots his gap. But in talking to the coaches, Edgerrin Cooper was lined up in the wrong spot. Nobody would have known that. Or maybe some people would have. Few people would have known that just watching the play on its surface. Yesterday, when I think it was Whittington kind of leaked loose through the middle and then to the right for a 33-yard gain, it looked like Walker should have followed him. But I'm not sure if it was Walker or Javon Bullard who was in the box. So I'd be careful to say Quay Walker should lose the green dot. Coaches won't always be upfront about who is not playing well and who is, but they seem pretty pleased with what Quay Walker is doing. That's just reading between the lines, kind of getting a sense for how these guys kind of thinly veil their critique or thickly veil their critique for certain players. I think they're fine with Quay Walker. That is not taking away from Edgerrin Cooper, who is making plenty of plays, flying around. You know, the sack he had yesterday where he lines up over the center and then comes around the right tackle and tackles Matthew Stafford in space. That's great. If anything, it's a good problem to have a couple guys who can do that stuff. Quay Walker can too. And on Isaiah McDuffie, I think PFF, they know football and good at something. For example, they piss poor run blocking grade after the Colts game when Tucker Kraft, according to Greg Olson, according to Packers coaches, was a beast against the run, or not against the run, blocking for the run. And PFF ranked him as their third worst run blocker. Take everything, all these grades, everything you see right off the bat with a grain of salt. Again, I'm not trying to come at you, and I appreciate the call. Maybe we need to not jump to such quick judgment at first.
We do have Michael giving us a call from Oconomowoc. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, so happy to be on the air with you guys. A few quick points. I think that either Watson or Dobbs would have made that third down, and I think we all would have relaxed a little bit on that long pass that was easily catchable. The announcer said it was tipped. It looked like it just wasn't quite that elite level that these other guys are that can jump and catch it.
Are you talking about the one deep to Wicks?
Yeah. I think that if we would have had Dobbs or Watson, I think they would have been able to zero in and catch that. If we would have got that, they would have been likely running out the clock or almost running out the clock on that third down where we had to punt after. And then curious where Musgrave is, where he's not getting much action and why that is. And then I'm real confident that our kicker got all the bad stuff out of the system and is going to be okay. I think we're going to be good with him the rest of the year.
Yeah, on Braden Arvison, real quick, good. It's a good building block, good confidence builder, if anything. It's one field goal. It's a 46-yarder. It's 3 extra points. But just to see 4 kicks go through the uprights, get through a clean day without a miss. His first, really clean day, even though the miss he had in Tennessee was negated by that Titans penalty. So has he turned a corner? I don't know yet. We'll need to see him do that for a couple games. Luke Musgrave was injured yesterday. I know he was active, but when I did my podcast with LaFleur today, and you'll hear it on this show tomorrow, he said that Luke was active just in case of an emergency, and he didn't play any snaps yesterday. He's been playing, not nearly as much as Tucker Kraft, but he's been playing a decent amount of snaps. Did not play a single snap yesterday. LaFleur really praised him in his talk with me for not practicing during the week and getting himself to a point where he could play. But he was active just in case of an emergency, and that's why they elevated fullback Andrew Beck from the practice squad. So Musgrave's DNP yesterday was not because of performance. It was because of his ankle.
Gotcha. All right, one more caller here. Jesse in Madison joining us here. Jesse, welcome to the show. Jesse. Oh, Jesse.
Going once.
Jesse had to call back. He's all right. You got
Jesse,
your son the orange?
Come on, dude.
Yeah. I'm Richard Rodgers in the Hail Mary, 2016. I really appreciate the show, Matt, and Hunter does a great job.
Yes, he does.
My question is, I know it's uncharacteristic for someone like Dobbs to come out of the woodwork and kind of miss practice for 2 days based upon whatever his gripe is with the Packers. But is he trying to get ahead of Watson for a payday?
At the middle of
the draft selection?
Well, I think at the middle of all this stuff, at the middle of, whatever Dobbs is going through, is probably wanting to get paid in the long run. He's in his 3rd year. Him and Watson are going to be up for extensions this offseason, entering their 4th year. Neither of them have a 5th-year option since Watson was a 2nd-round pick and Dobbs was a 4th-round pick in 2022. Money's at the middle of everything, whether guys like to admit it or not, because the more targets you get, more catches you make probably, the more money you get paid. And that's why I said at the beginning of the show, it's easy to say, oh, we have a bunch of unselfish guys in the room. It can be a different wide receiver one each day. Jaden Reed got 0 targets in the playoff game against the Cowboys, and he's fine with it. And he probably was, but all these guys have egos, and it's human nature. But it's another thing to skip practice because of it. You got to put that to the side if that is truly all that was going on. So is he trying to get ahead of Watson for a payday? If he was, that certainly is not the way to do it. Because that certainly does not put him in good graces with the front office who will be in charge of paying him. Romeo Doubs is a really good player, but he's not that good where he can do that and then still have the front office say, you know what? That was inexcusable, but he's so good that we'll forgive it. It's just not the case. So if he wanted to, curry favor with the front office when it comes payday time, that was certainly not the way to do it.
Yeah, there's a text here. Pizza Steve says, trade Doubs now if he's willing to skip practice. What is he going to be like when it's time to extend his contract? I think we just need to calm down, everyone. Calm down.
I swear my family has a YouTube TV account and we're only allowed 3 streams at once. And I just got kicked off of my stream for the Yankee game. Figure it out.
Yeah. Well, do you know what happens in that inning?
They just had first and second no outs. Aaron Judge struck out. Austin Wells struck out. Giancarlo Stanton grounded out. Second straight game where we've left 2 on with no outs in the first inning. Just inexcusable.
Can't have it. Can't have it.
Oh, my God.
Can't have it. Well, Matt's going to go and enjoy the Yankee game. Maybe
go watch the game.
You might have to listen to it.
Oh, no, I'm watching it. Ain't nobody stopping me from watching this game. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow with Wayne Larrivee. Doug Russell will be back in the saddle. Thanks to Hunter for filling in today. For him, I'm Matt Schneidman. This has been the Matt Schneidman Show. Appreciate everyone for listening.